Welcome back to The World Tonight. Very important story to talk to you about. Many of you may not have known about this, but it has been more than 7 years, and Marvin Louis Guy, a black man, remains behind bars in Texas, having never received his day in court. You might think that's impossible, but yet it is the case for Guy. He is accused, you see, of shooting a Killeen Police Department SWAT detective during a no-knock raid on his home, Guy's home, and that was in 2014. The detective died, and Guy says his actions were in self-defense, that he did not know it was police coming into his home at 5 a.m. And after years of multiple trial dates set and then moved, efforts are now picking up to get Marvin Louis Guy his day in court, his day of reckoning, and a chance at justice, which is what you should have in this country. Joining us now is Pastor Nick Gentile, who has been following the case very closely for some time now. Pastor Gentile, you got involved in this case. Let's talk about it. Talk to us about Marvin Louis Guy and why he remains in jail today after more than 7 years of not even receiving his day in court.
Well, thank you, sir, for having me on. It's a real honor, a blessing, and a privilege. Marvin's a great guy. I've been fighting for justice for him for over 5 years since I first found out about this, made a documentary about it, put up a website about it, and have been pushing justice for Marvin Louis Guy for a while. This is just a grave miscarriage of justice which has been done to this man. I believe that what the Killeen Police Department did was completely unjust, and they're attempting to cover up the crimes they've committed against him. And they're responsible ultimately for the death of that officer, and they've scapegoated Marvin instead of the police department being held accountable. Those who were there that morning at 5:40 in the morning, May 9th, 2014, them being held accountable, he's the scapegoat. And because he's black and he's poor, he's an easy scapegoat. And it's absolutely unjust. And I'm sorry, yeah.
Pastor Gentile, you mentioned that he's being scapegoated. When this incident happened at Guy's home with a no-knock warrant, and we've seen the results of that in the Breonna Taylor case, in this particular case with Marvin Guy, what really happened? Did police open fire, and was it friendly fire that may have killed this SWAT officer?
Yes, they did a no-knock raid on his apartment. They were attempting to enter into his apartment. They broke the glass, and which was positioned near the front room, right in the front room where he was sleeping. Marvin heard the noise. He did not know it was the police, and he opened fire. Most people in Texas are armed. Marvin's no different. He lived in a high crime area, so he was protecting himself and his girlfriend, who was sleeping in the back room. They attempted to enter. He shot into the darkness, not knowing who it was, thinking it was someone trying to enter in to do him and his girlfriend harm. When he realized it was the police, he surrendered. They then proceeded to brutalize him, taking him to the ground, shoving a gun in his mouth, breaking some of his teeth, shoving a gun up his butt, threatening to kill him, calling him racial slurs, committing police brutality. In a most heinous way. His girlfriend was tackled to the ground. Some of her ribs were broken. She was hiding in a closet. They made her come out. As soon as she came out, because they were shouting orders to her and she didn't know what was going on, it was early in the morning. She was asleep when she was woken up because of the ruckus that took place. And she was tackled to the ground because she didn't respond to their orders quickly enough. She was, again, broken ribs. She urinated on herself. And she hasn't wanted to talk about this for fear of retribution or retaliation at the hands of the Killeen Police Department. Marvin has been denied due process. He's been denied a fair and speedy trial before an impartial jury of his peers. His constitutional rights have been completely trampled on. And I believe it's both because he's black and he's poor. And his legal representation has been a complete joke. He believes, and if you go to my website, freemarvinlguy.com, you can listen to conversations I've taken with Marvin with his approval from his perspective on what has occurred and what he's been subjected to. It's a grave miscarriage of justice that has to be rectified because he's made in the likeness and image of God. He has the same intrinsic worth and value as everyone else. And he's an American citizen and has all the rights and freedoms. He should enjoy them like the rest of us. And he's been denied them. And this is just despicable what has happened. And he believes, I'll say this quickly, that his defense team is in the back pocket of the prosecution. He's not. He's been railroaded completely. This whole thing is just disgusting.
Did the police state why they had created this no-knock warrant and went into Guy's home on that night?
Yeah, they claimed that a confidential informant purchased drugs from Marvin on 3 separate occasions. But in there, and you can read this, his full report, the full police report that's on freemarvinlguy.com. You can read the police statements, and they say a confidential informant claimed that he made 3 drug buys from Marvin. That never actually happened. The confidential informant never actually said that. They claimed there was a lot of foot traffic around and outside of Marvin's vehicle and his apartment, that Marvin stayed for prolonged periods of time within his vehicle, which they felt was suspicious. But there was nothing that, in my opinion, pointed to probable cause to be able to get a warrant signed for them to do this no-knock warrant, do this no-knock raid. And when they did the no-knock raid, they didn't find any drugs in his car or in his apartment. Nothing. And this is just a corrupt, supposed to fight the war on drugs. What drugs? No drugs were found. This man has been mistreated in a most despicable manner. And a great documentary has just been released, an 18-minute documentary that everyone should check out, that you can find on another website, that's freemarvinguy.com. And on there, you can learn different ways that you can share Marvin's story, you can sign a petition, and you can support his legal defense fund. He needs a lot of money for good legal representation. So free Marvin Louis Guy.
I've also noticed, didn't mean to cut you off, but I have also noticed that it's on other social media platforms as well. Pastor, what is being done right now to get Marvin Louis Guy a trial date and a chance at justice after all of these? You mentioned that his legal fund is necessary, but what else has to be done to get him to court to have a fair trial?
We need to put pressure on Henry Garza, the DA, and he's featured in the documentary. His corruption, all the evidence that he suppressed in Marvin's case and other cases. We need to put pressure on him. Pressure has to be put on Marvin's defense team as well, because they're dragging their feet. Marvin sincerely believes that they're in the back pocket of the DA and they're conspiring to suppress justice in his case, for him not to get a fair trial, to even get a trial. They trying to sweep this whole situation under the rug. That's why he's been in jail unjustly, unconstitutionally for 7 years. It's almost unheard of. I mean, I've heard of other situations similar to this, but not quite like this. And Marvin is such a great guy. He feels terrible for what happened to the police officer, Officer Dinwiddie, and the other police officers that were harmed. But he's facing the death penalty for something that the cops are responsible for. It's never been proven, because he's not had a trial, that he's the one who shot any of the officers. It's very likely, or very possible, they died due to friendly fire, as you mentioned before, sir. So justice for Marvin Louis Guy. If he's guilty, let's have a trial and do it the right way. If he's found guilty, we'll deal with it then. But he's not. He's been denied justice. This is evil, and it's just what black folks and other people of color or minorities or non-white people and even poor white people have been subjected into this country, by the government, by the legal system, by the criminal justice system, for many years. So for centuries.
I need to ask you, how is Marvin Louis Guy doing in jail today, from all accounts, and what is being done to help him stay in jail and be of health and a sound mind in order to face his accusers and to face a trial?
Well, by God's grace, I did just speak with him yesterday. I recorded, yesterday I didn't record any calls, but I've talked to him probably 3 or 4 times in the last week. I have more calls I'm going to be posting up online. But in light of all that he's experienced, that he's been subjected to, they also injured his spine. The police injured his spine, and he was in a wheelchair for a long time because of the injuries to his spine when he was arrested. But in light of all that, because of his faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, he's standing strong. He has faith. He knows he's going to get justice one day, and he's plowing ahead. He's encouraged me, because I've gotten so frustrated over the lack of the response to his case and people wanting to fight for him, because I've been pushing this for 5 years on my social media platforms, and it's gotten very little traction, picked up very little traction and momentum. But with this documentary that just came out, and that you can watch on the free marvinguy.com website, I believe that's going to change. But he's doing well in light of all that he's experienced. And so pray for him, keep him in your prayers, and go on that website and do all that you can to help this man. Donate to his legal defense fund, sign his petition, share his story on your social media platforms. You can go to my website, freemarvinlguy.com. All of the audio recordings are up there from the calls I've gotten from Marvin, that I fielded from him. The legal documents. You can read the police statements yourself, where Juan Obregon, the main officer who arrested him, wrote in the police records, the police statements, that he did swear at Marvin, that he did shove a gun in his mouth, that he did do all these things to Marvin. And real quick, I posted, I created a document. It's one of the documents Marvin sent me. It's on the front page. I underlined and circled all of the statements from the police, according to their own admission, that they abused Marvin. And you can find that on the website. You also see it in the documentary. So check out that website, both websites. Do what you can to get justice for Marvin Louis Guy, because he's facing the death penalty for crimes I don't
want to
believe
thank
he
you
committed.
for.
Yes, sir.
I can see your passion for it in your defense of Marvin Louis Guy. Pastor Nick Gentile, we thank you for joining us tonight and sharing this insight about what appears to be an egregious miscarriage of justice. We'll continue to follow the developments of this story. Thank you for joining us. Straight ahead on The World Tonight, we delve into the details of we've actually talked to you about Marvin Lewis's case. We'll continue to follow the developments of this and reach out to the Killeen Police Department. We have not heard a response from them at all. But as we continue to move on with tonight's program, we'll talk about other cases that are going on. We'll talk about what's happening. You are watching The World Tonight here on BNC.